Our parents are retired. We have a millennial generation who are real hustlers. Hawa watu wanamka from saa tisa wanaenda kulala saa tano ya usiku. They only rest for 4 hours. Millennials are also not ready to settle down. Then you have Gen Z. Gen Z have already said, we cannot be employed. We have to be our own bosses. So this job that millennials are actually being, engaged, it has to be maintained by the Gen Z, by the millennials, because there's no way a Gen Z is going to be employed. Then you have the Gen Z they've already warned us, the millennials who are their parents, that my friend, wewe kama hukujipanga usinitegeme. So if you did not panga yourself for the future, so we're talking about the social protection. So if you're not saving right now, if you're not putting your house in order as a millennial parent and plan for your retirement, just know your Gen Z child is not going to take care of you. Unlike us, who are already taking care of our parents. So your parent is always one of your payslip item. Unajua, have I sorted them out? Have I paid for their domestic worker? You are actually providing care to your parents. But my child will not do that for me. My name is Purity Jebor, and I'm a social converser, and I love it that way. I will not say that I'm an expert in this, but time, experience, and engagement have continued shaping my conversation around women, rights, and gender justice in the country. We are in a moment where Kenya is awoke to the care conversation. And the care conversation for Kenya is more on the financial implication or, the economic dividends that Kenya is likely to, experience. However, there have been increased conversation around care, and not just care, unpaid care and domestic work within the communities, because it is now shaping the conversation. And over time, we've had studies that have continued demonstrating on the status of care. That is more in terms of the scientific data that has informed the progress that Kenya is already experiencing. From the Time Use Survey of 2022, and last year, there was also an economic evaluation of unpaid care and domestic work. And for the very first time, Kenya now can be confident and say that we cannot quantify the economic value of unpaid and domestic work. And shockingly is that these are things that we just do them, but we never understand the economic, social, and political implication. And unpaid care work was the second biggest sector in the country. And every time we talk about this, people think that I'm joking. I'm like, I'm not joking. Unpaid care and domestic work is one of the biggest economy in the country right now. And you can see the progress that Kenya is always, just announcing. So Kenya is in a moment where it's now peaking care, but it has only taken consideration on the economic implication alone. So we are here as the social conversers to now demonstrate and bring insights to the social and political discussions as well. The thing that the society learns late, or I should say that we were never prepared or even taught, even as you grow older on unpaid care work, is at one time you'll be the sole provider of care work. And I think that is a realization that you will come to eat later on, maybe 15 or even 10 years later, that is post your school. However, you'll never be told that this is what you should be doing. we observe what our community or even our environment is always behaving. And one of the best thing, or one of the learning that any human being is always exposed to, is observation. So when that child is observing how their parents are actually behaving around them, then they start picking up, and start normalizing. Your mother, like my mother never told me that, girls are not supposed to sit with their legs apart, but I saw her how she used to sit. And I tried to imitate her, from talking, from carrying on myself, from cooking. You find me doing the lasso, just tying it around my waist because I saw my mom doing that. So eventually you find that your brothers, even how they used to be treated at home, we were never taught how boys are supposed to be treated. But you find that because those are some of the observations that we have been making while growing up, when we now enter into the companionship, or I should say, cohabiting, that is what the young people are using, you find that you're just there and taking up everything. You don't want to see your spouse doing anything in the kitchen. You'll even start fighting with him. Why are you taking my space? Okay. And I think those are the things that we were never taught, but you did observe. And you want to maintain it, not just in your house, but I have also observed people still doing it even in workplaces. Why should you serve someone tea? That is not part of your job description, because your job description is based on your competence, and there is nowhere where those are clauses that you should be serving people, you should be cleaning the table, you should be ensuring that everybody is okay. But you'll step into a meeting or even in an office, and you'll find women are there, ensuring that everybody is okay, forgetting that her mind and her knowledge is actually being expected in that meeting. When you talk about the caregiving and you're looking at it from a women's perspective, or even the women lens, is that there are those barriers, or there are those implications that will come with it. If you just do a scan in any public health facility, you'll see the caregivers who are there with the patients is actually women. Even the ward, even the men's ward, you'll find that it is women who are there, and young girls. Never will you find a man caretaker in a ward unless that is a professional caregiver that is being paid by the family of the patient. However, there are those barriers because we tend to take it up, and we tend to follow our career growth or even our dream, because it is what it is. But it's also unfortunate that a woman's life is always dependent on someone else, because that is how our nature is. You'll be a girl, and you'll always ensure that even your big brother is actually well taken care of. You will be in marriage, your first priority are your kids and your husband. And every time you sit down with women, and they will tell you, I am not ready to get a promotion to a faraway region or even to another country. How am I going to leave my husband and my children? Okay. But a man will never think, it will not even be an afterthought. This is a promotion, go. By the following day, he's already packed his bag and is gone, okay? But a woman will have to do the calculation. It's about me. Maybe the lady has a sick parent. It's about my parent. I have a younger sister. It's about my sister. And you'll find that we'll end up missing out, getting promotion, because you are always thinking about everyone else, but you'll never be a priority for yourself. And even, unfortunately, the world of work has even made us start thinking, when should I have a child? It is even now interfering with our sexual reproductive health rights, because you think, I need to have a baby today. That is like 9 months. Then you have an additional 3 months, By that time, what as in the milestone that your counterparts have already made in life, you'll never catch up. By the time you're back to work, you just resume from your long leave. The workplace is like a new place. And the absence of having a care policy, even within our HR policies, then the woman will just be lost somewhere. So you'll find in terms of her productivity, it is never that high compared, it will never be at the same level. And unfortunately, for us to also ensure that there's progressive, transformative women in leadership, the place of care also informs our political engagement. Last time there was this vocal lady that I was really admiring, and she was, supporting political parties, just putting their things in order. And I asked her, I have seen you with this party, are you going to vie, or are you positioning yourself for a possible nomination? She was like, Purity, I cannot, I'm pregnant. I'm like, what do you mean you can? I'm like, no, I'm pregnant, I have 2 toddlers, and I don't think I'll be able to go to the campaign, leave alone, sitting on those, at the top of the car, running around. So you'll find that women, even by the time they think of, joining politics, there is a calculation. And as I said, observation is the best teacher. Just observe our Senate and our National Assembly. How many women in those 2 houses are women within their reproductive age? None. So that is why most of the progressive, we've been struggling with sexual reproductive health progressive policies, because the people who are articulating it, they're not in the moment, and they really don't resonate with what a young woman wants on her body, what a young woman wants in terms of family planning, accessibility of all the commodities that she does require. The specific support that caregivers actually need from institutions, from families, and don't forget about government, because everything will have to be embedded, and government has to provide the standards. So if the government don't have the standards on caregivers, or government has no a standard operating procedure, there is an absence in policy, or the caregiver word is actually it's actually absent from any policy, then there are those investments that will never be done, because money will follow policy. So as much as we'll do the empathetic, we used to observe people being taken care of when they are sick, but if government is also not complementing that knowledge, then there's so little that we can do. Because at the end of the day, we don't want a sympathy to be our governing, angle. Because sympathy will never give me money, sympathy will never be sustainable, and sympathy actually lowers your dignity as a human being. So people have the power and people have the right. And it is the duty of government to ensure that people who are sick are being taken care of. People who also take care of them are also being taken care of. And that's why the Disability Act, our policy of 2025, it was very bold. And it did introduce the facilitation of the caregivers for persons with disability. Because at times you'll have a child who's disabled, and that child will take over your life. Like, your life will always be dependent on this child. So how is government ensuring that as much as you're taking care of this child, you are also economically being empowered? So there's a very little facilitation around that. However, as I'd mentioned earlier, we need to be in the moment with the world, or where the world is. I was privileged to attend the Smart City Summit 2 years ago in South Korea. And it was just demonstrating on how AI is being used in the modern world. And when I think about AI, South Korea was thinking about to be a fully fledged AI country by 2030. So they are shy by 3.5 years. And by then, their health system was already working. There's nothing to do with, you have the bacoras that we use back here at home. There's actually an AI that supports older persons in terms of mobility. So they're able to walk around, they're able to do their things. They don't require someone to be there. There was also very basic AIs that you even can gauge your cough or even your cold. So you don't need someone to be there, to take you to the hospital. Because I think we forget that patients always require our attention before being admitted to the hospital. You see, at the hospital, they're already being contained. So you have a leeway at times to do your own things because you cannot just walk into a health facility. But before that, what actually happens? So it's about starting the discussions right now. And right now, we're not talking about the sick. When I look at the Kenyan demographic, the different generations that we have here today, even as we're talking about the care economy advancement, there's a business opportunity. The home for the old. Our parents are retired. We have a millennial generation who are real hustlers. Hawa watu wanamka from saa 9 wanaenda kulala saa 5 ya usiku. They only rest for 4 hours. Millennials are also not ready to settle down. Then you have Gen Z. Gen Z have already said, we cannot be employed. We have to be our own bosses. So this job that millennials are actually being engaged, it has to be maintained by the Gen Z, by the millennials, because there's no way a Gen Z is going to be employed. Then you have the Gen Z they've already warned us, the millennials who are their parents, that my friend, wewe kama hukujipanga usinitegeme. So if you did not panga yourself for the future, so we're talking about the social protection. So if you're not saving right now, if you're not putting your house in order as a millennial parent and plan for your retirement, just know your Gen Z child is not going to take care of you. Unlike us, who are already taking care of our parents. So your parent is always one of your payslip item. Unajua, have I sorted them out? Have I paid for their domestic worker? You are actually providing care to your parents. But my child will not do that for me. So, and then they also don't want to get employed, and they also don't want to get married and settle down. They don't want to be under any form of control. So by the time we are retiring from the labor force, the millennials will have many old people who must be taken care of. The Gen Z, their Gen Z children will not be there to ensure that they're okay. So there's need for Kenya to start planning for home for the older persons, because that is where we are going. And we don't say that it's a must for my child to take care of me. Who taught them that? No. Why is it working in other nations, but in Africa, or to be specific, Kenya, it is always an assumption that we have to take care of our parents' sympathy. And when that sympathy is not extended, then you feel that people don't really love me. So we need to start teaching our children that even me, I'm always talking about my social protection, because I know the Gen Alpha and the Gen Zs have already warned us. So if I fail to plan for my social protection, that I'll be able to afford a caregiver to ensure that I am well taken care of, then there's a stage in life where I'll be more miserable. And unfortunately, that is when I'll be very old and weak, and the energy will not be there to talk it out or even to hold a conversation with my child. So there's need for us to start conversing this. The kind of discussion that families need to hold on matters to do with caregiving, these are difficult conversation. And I cannot tell you there's a science to it on how these need to be initiated. But at some point, it does require that conversation because of resources, because of time, and also the social well-being of the caregivers. So when you hold it, when it happens, that is the best time to have it. Don't when you are comfortable to talk again, because the times will become more, you'll be more emotional and you'll not be able to be very objective on what you want. But as a caregiver, what do you want? So that instead of having a conversation or where you're just lamenting, it's okay. It's okay to lament and vent. That one, it's actually allowed. You're actually providing that these are the things that I'm going through and these are kind of supports that I need. And if there is a budgetary attached to it, I think we also need to agree. However, have some percentage of disappointment as well. In life, when you don't expect too much from people, you're going to be a happy person. Because if they disappoint you, but it was given, so it's not a surprise to you. But if they do otherwise, you're like, okay, so I really do appreciate this. But it's good to hold the conversation on the onset when it happens, because people have to be informed that this is how I want you to support me, and this is how I'm going to support. And if anything else happen, then this is how we are going to navigate it. But one of the things is, I think we are more of Christian-based families we're actually religious-based families in Kenya. So if you even need a pastor or sheikh or imam to come and be part of that discussion to enable you speak it out and, provide the sympathetic verses that people will love to hear. If you fail to support your daughter, if you fail to support your child, if you fail to support your family, this is what our Quran says and this is what the scriptures have equally guided us. So be it. But it's okay. It's first have the first family, just have that discussion. Then if things are not working out, then you can always seek another alternative. I know we are told we should not challenge culture, but you also need to make culture to be progressive. So that if I'm married and I have to take care of my mother, my husband will not tell me that I'm a Luya man or I'm a Kalenjin man. I cannot be under the same roof with my mother-in-law. So where will my mother go? So we need to be very realistic to the current lives that we are living in on caregiving and also on the practices that is happening. But equally, continue engaging in the spaces if it's a policy space, if it's an influencing space, that we will be able to see some of the progressive care development happening so that this burden can also be reduced. And think about SHA. Can SHA even pay for the caregivers? Because if SHA can do that, then that will also be another responsibility or a burden that will be reduced from us. So we are able to engage in other development activities because government has already taken care of the caregiving responsibility on our behalf.